All right, then we'll go ahead and get started. Today's worship. It's wonderful to have you all with us. Welcome to all of you who are here most of the time, and welcome to those of you who have joined us through the shared pulpit as well. It is April 11th, and our second Sundays of each month, we share in the Pittsburgh area's shared pulpit, in which folks are invited to go to a variety of congregations on different weeks of the month for leadership of worship services. So if you will join me now, our opening hymn is number 163, For the Earth Forever Turning, and the words will be on your screen.
For the earth forever turning, for the skies for every sea, for our lives, for all we cherish, sing we our joyful song of peace. For the mountains, hills, and pastures, in the silent majesty, for the stars, for all the heavens, sing we our joyful song of peace. For the sun, for rain and thunder, for the seasons' harmony, for our lives, for all creation, sing we our joyful praise to thee. For the world we raise our voices, for the home that gives us birth. In the joy we sing, returning home to our new green hills of earth.
Welcome. I'm so glad that you're here today. So good morning and welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Indiana, Pennsylvania. I'm the Reverend Elizabeth Mount, and I'm so happy to be welcoming you to our online space. On behalf of the entire congregation, thank you for tuning in. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome. We hope that you will subscribe as well to our YouTube channel. You can search for Pastor Elizabeth Mount on YouTube to find that channel. This month, we are doing a special thing called Meditative Mondays. So if you want to hop over to that channel any Monday or on days in between and just look up Meditative Mondays, they're a great source for journal prompts or to do art along to, or just to bring your body to the present moment along with me. I want to go over a couple of technical notes about online worship if you're using it for the first time or you're with us for the first time. If you're on the computer, you may see you can turn your video on and off. So if you are concerned that you might get too comfortable in your own home and forget that you're on camera, you are welcome to turn that video off. However, sharing our screens and our videos is a way that people feel connected on Sundays. So if you wish to leave your camera on for the experience of seeing one another singing together, even though we can't hear one another, you are very welcome to do so. There's also a speech bubble in the middle labeled chat. It's about here if you're using the computer. And you can use that feature during our Joys and Sorrows, for our chalice lighting, and for greeting one another at those times in our service. First Unitarian Universalist Church of Indiana is a member of the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations. We're united in a web of mutuality that creates our denomination. There's no formal creed or doctrine. Rather, we teach that individuals have both the right and the responsibility to discern their own spiritual paths. We come together to support and assist one another on our journeys and to build the beloved community together. I invite you, if you'd like to stay after the service for conversation and a bring your own coffee hour. I'll open up the microphones after our worship so people can check in about how you're feeling, what's on your hearts and minds. And now I invite you to take a breath and to settle yourself into a spirit of worship. Welcome.
The Great End in Religious Instruction by William Ellery Channing. The great end in religious instruction is not to stamp our minds upon the young, but to stir up their own. Not to make them see with our eyes, but to look inquiringly and steadily with their own. Not to give them a definite amount of knowledge, but to inspire a fervent love of truth. Not to form an outward regularity, but to touch inward springs. Not to bind them by ineradicable prejudices to our particular sect or peculiar notions, but to prepare them for impartial, conscientious judging of whatever subjects may be offered to their decision. Not to burden the memory, but to quicken and strengthen the power of thought. Not to impose religion upon them in the form of arbitrary rules, but to awaken the conscience, the moral discernment. In a word, the great end is to awaken the soul, to excite and cherish spiritual life.
If you have a chalice or a candle, you can light its flame now and type "the flame is lit" and where you might be joining us from in the chat bar. We will speak together the words for the lighting of our chalice. A chalice lit in this sacred moment reminds us that we too come alight and alive when we are brought together in holy space, in shared awakening, in unity. It's good to be together and to see all of you joining us and lighting your chalices in so many places. And now we come to our time for all ages. This book, Little Mole Finds Hope, is read by our Director of Religious Exploration, Penny Vick. The book is by Glenys Nellist.
Good morning. This Sunday, we will be talking about love, hope, and faith. And I believe I found a great story that relates to this message. Let me share it with you. Little Mole Finds Hope. A story by Glenys Nellist, illustrated by Sally Garland. Little Mole was sad. He lay in his burrow deep underground and put his head in his paws. Little Mole, whatever's wrong? Asked Mama. I just don't know, Mama, sniffed Little Mole, but I don't feel good inside. I'm sad. What you need is hope, Mama said. Hope? What's hope? Where do I find it? Little Mole asked. Come with me, Mama said, as she took hold of Little Mole's paws. Sometimes hope is hiding in the darkness. Sometimes it's hard to see, but it's always there. You just have to find it. Mama led her son gently out of the dark burrow, up toward the light, but on their way out of the tunnel, Mama stopped. Do you see this bulb, Little Mole? She asked. Mama pointed to a bulb squashed in the dark earth. It was brown, wrinkled, and lifeless. It's dead, Mama, said Little Mole. No, my dear, Mama whispered softly. The bulb is not dead. Sometime soon, it will feel the warmth of the sun. It will begin to grow and push its way out of the deep, cold earth. One day, this bulb will become a beautiful daffodil. Close your eyes, Little Mole. Can you see it dancing in the wind? Yes, Mama, cried Little Mole. I see it. I see it. That is hope, Mama said. Little Mole and Mama reached the top of the burrow where the sun was shining. Look up, Little Mole, Mama said. What do you see? Little Mole looked up. He saw woodpeckers sitting in the trees, but the branches were bare. They stretched out like skeleton bones, silhouetted against the sky. They're dead, Mama, said Little Mole. No, my dear, Mama whispered softly. The trees are not dead. One day soon, buds will appear and these branches will be covered in bright green leaves. Close your eyes, Little Mole. Can you see them dancing in the wind? Yes, Mama, cried Little Mole. I see them. I see them. That is hope, Mama said. Little Mole and his Mama scurried along the edge of the wood until they came to Mr. Rabbit's garden. An old flower pot was lying on its side in the soil under the rim. Something small was shriveled and hanging. It's dead, Mama, said Little Mole. No, my dear, whispered Mama softly. This chrysalis is not dead. One day soon, the butterfly growing inside will burst out of her shell. She will spread her wings and fly free among the flowers. Close your eyes, Little Mole, said Mama. Can you see her dancing in the wind? Yes, Mama, cried the Little Mole. I see her. I see her. That is hope, Mama said. I had a wonderful day today, Mama, Little Mole said happily. Now I know that there's always hope, even in the darkest places. Mama smiled as she tucked Little Mole into bed, pulled his quilt up under his chin, and kissed him good night. And Little Mole closed his eyes and fell fast asleep, dreaming of yellow daffodils, green trees, and beautiful butterflies dancing together in the wind. The end.
And now, in this hopeful time of spring, let us pass the peace and greet one another. Just take a moment, and if you'd like to type a blessing in our chat, feel welcome to do that now. You might type something like, peace be with you, namaste, shalom, blessed be, bright blessings. Blessed be. Our UU moment today introduces a Unitarian historical figure, William Ellery Channing. William Ellery Channing is known as, in some ways, the founder or the most important figure in the development of American Unitarianism. He wrote in 1819 a sermon called Unitarian Christianity. And it was the first time that Unitarians claimed the label Unitarian for themselves. Up until that point, it had been more of an insult or an appellation given to Unitarians by others seeking to discredit our form of worship and our theological roots. In some ways, in many ways, William Ellery Channing was the one who gave the liberal Christians of his time a party platform, something to rally around. He was publicly affirming something that liberal Christians had been saying already in private spaces and in small pamphlets. He explicitly rejected Calvinist creeds demeaning the inherent worth and dignity of human nature. Thanks in no small part to Channing, liberal Christians no longer felt compelled to hide their objections to an Orthodox Christianity that said that all people were inherently sinful, bad, wrong, in need of salvation. So Unitarianism emerged as a new and more welcoming religious tradition. Channing preached and lectured. He wrote texts saying that God takes pleasure in making human beings happy, that God finds joy in encouraging the infinite progression of human beings toward moral perfection of their souls by becoming educated, by talking about deep matters together, by sharing vulnerably and opening our hearts. He set aside that Calvinist image of God as a wrathful, angry, punitive existence and rejected portrayals of humans as irrevocably fallen or broken. So human improvement for Channing was a divine mandate. His affirmation of the inherent worth and dignity of human nature became foundational and sticks with us even today, and succeeded him 100 years or more later into the development of the Humanist Manifesto and the creation of a human-centered religious faith. Channing believed that the religion he preached could help to bring about, and I quote, a moral renovation of the world. He thought political injustice would only be succeeded by new and different forms of injustice until people themselves changed and became more aware of their responsibilities toward one another, and of their common humanity. So for all of these reasons, we claim William Ellery Channing, one of the first writers about Unitarian Christianity, in our heritage, and feel that his teachings still have resonance with our faith today. At this time, I invite you to join me in a common reading of our Unitarian Universalist 7 principles. They are a covenant we make between and among our congregations as to how we will be together and the world we wish to create. So Unitarian Universalists covenant to affirm and promote all of these values. We honor the inherent worth and dignity of every person, practice justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, accept one another, and encourage spiritual growth, support the freedom to search for what is true and right in life, ensure that all have a vote in the matters that concern them, work for a peaceful, fair, and free world, and care for planet Earth, the home we share with all living things. And now I invite you to join in singing our hymn number 113. It's called "Where is Our Holy Church?"
Where is our holy church? Where is Saint Cassian light? As equal persons in the search for beauty, truth, and right. Where is our holy writ? Where our human heart? A sacred torch of truth has lit by inspiration taught. Where is our Holy One? A mighty host respond. The people rise in every land to break the captive's bond. Where is our Holy Land? Within the human soul, wherever free minds truly seek with character the goal. Where is our paradise? In aspiration's sight, wherein we hope to see arise 10,000 years of right.
And our centering words come from the Reverend Sean Parker Dennison.
To Invoke Love by Sean Parker Dennison. To invoke love is to ask for a hug from a thunderstorm, spill tea in the lap of the infinite trickster, to make the biggest, most embarrassing mistake of your life in front of everyone who matters. To invoke love is to never know if it will come softly with the muzzle of a beloved dog, or pounce right on your chest with the strength of a lioness, protecting her cub, her pride, her homeland. To invoke love is to take the risk of inviting chaos to visit the spaces you spent so much time making tidy, and watch as the breath of life scatters everything you have just folded and put away. To invoke love is to allow for the possibility that your words and actions might become so empowered you can no longer believe in apathy or the self-righteous idea that nothing can change. To invoke love is to give up self-deprecation, false humility, pride, to consider yourself worthy to be made whole, willing to encounter love that will never let us let each other go. To invoke love is to guard against assumptions, take care with our words, and practice forgiveness, not as ethereal ideal, but right here in the messy midst of our imperfect lives. To invoke love is to approach each day and every person with wonder, anticipating love's arrival. Is this the moment? Is this love's grand entrance? Is this person the embodiment of love? Am I the one? To invoke love is to play the fool, the one more concerned with loving than with appearance or reputation. The one willing, ready and willing to be vulnerable, abandoning anything that gets in love's way. To invoke love is to be ready to become love. Here, now, in everything we do. Are you ready?
And now we come to that time when we share the joys and sorrows, the hopes and concerns, the celebrations and the burdens of our daily living. During our centering music, if you have joys or sorrows to share, you may type them in our chat bar during the music. Our centering music is Waiting for Love by Matilda Ostión de Genlis. And now let us join hearts and minds together in a spirit of prayer. Spirit of life and of love. Spirit of all creation and of all things sacred. Let us gather in community as we celebrate with one another the joys of our lives, as we hold one another in tender care in those moments where we find difficulty and hardship. We gather in community knowing there is much to celebrate in this world. As Nana Randall anticipates the joy of her brother's visit after a long time apart. Sarah Steelman notes that asparagus and snow peas are coming up in the garden. These markers of springtime are a joy for all of us. We hold the joy of Molly's second vaccination coming up this Tuesday, and for all those able to be vaccinated or who have been vaccinated. We hold that in joy, and we hold the tender care for those who are not yet able or who have not yet had a chance to have vaccination appointments. We hold the joy of sunshine and warmth, the rain and new growth of springtime, and the relief that Ralph Miranda notes. We have just found a very important item in their life. That is good to hear. We hold in our hearts Kathy Vitale, whose brother-in-law is recovering well from a recent surgery. And Faye and Dawn, whose daughter Nan has bought a place and are going to open a Pan-Asian takeout cafe with Ramona. We hold the sometimes complicated joy. Molly's sister in a crummy relationship is now free of that. We also hold in our tender care Juanita and Judith, who are having a hard time dealing with the aftermath of fire. They ask for white light. We hold them in our thoughts, in our prayers. We also hold the joy. George Beeger remembered just in time to let us know that Karen and George are celebrating their wedding anniversary today. So for all the blessings of our lives, may we be truly thankful for that which is hard to bear. May we find support, care, and peace in being with one another in this sacred space. Blessed be one and all, and amen. We now come to that time in our worship where we give from our generosity, from our treasure. Each week in our congregation, we share of our gifts for all the work which happens within and beyond our church walls. This week and this month, our Share the Plate recipient is Family Promise. Aaron Lehman, a friend of this church, is one of the board members of Family Promise, and he notes how Family Promise's attention to the inherent worth and dignity of families who are facing housing insecurity or who are currently unhoused is aligned with our Unitarian Universalist principles. Aaron would welcome anyone who is interested in volunteering to contact him. You can let us know through the church, or you can speak to him directly through Facebook or phone if you would like to volunteer. You can also give. For online giving, you can contact office@firstuu-indianapa.org for a multitude of ways to give, or you can send money through PayPal to that email. All of your gifts support both the work of this church and the wider community, and we thank you for your offering. Let us now sing together our offertory hymn. From you I receive, to you I give.
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and by this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and by this we live.
Our sermon plays off of the work of William Ellery Channing. Channing, when he wrote about Unitarian Christianity, when he wrote about liberal Christian faith, he was speaking of the perfectibility of human nature, which is not to say that he thought everyone had to be perfect, but that there were sparks, there were moments when love, when hope, when understanding made us able to reach beyond ourselves to something sacred. The creative process, that process which many see as that which is holy in the universe, begins with the spark of an idea, with the dawning of a new understanding. Perhaps it is artistry, the creation of something beautiful made by you. Perhaps it is a new thesis or a theory. Perhaps the sudden conviction that a more just and compassionate world is possible. All roads toward progress come with this unique spark of the creative force. In creativity, there is the love of a new idea, the love of a noticing, and the hope that something that does not yet exist both can and will come into being because of us. And this, Channing and we may believe, is faith. And that is what we are here to talk about today. For faith is love meeting hope. Faith is reckless. Faith is creative. Faith is in that spark. As a child, I remember asking deep questions. I wanted to know why people were homeless, why I saw people without enough on the street. Why did some people lack food and some people had so much? Why was there disease, war, genocide, hardship? It's possible that not all children have such deep concerns, but I suspect that many do, more than we tend to believe from the comfortable distance of our adult years. I wanted to know why. If you're here, perhaps that has been a theme in your life as well. I wanted to know why in an abundant world we would choose methods of distribution that left some people out. I wanted to know how that had come about. Why so many people who I felt had the option to make different choices had decided that sharing, while a wonderful lesson for a kindergarten class, was not something that adults should have to do anymore. I wanted to know why there was not perfect justice. At that age, I didn't really understand greed. I thought it was an evil that one might see in fairy stories or in old tales of kings and feudal systems. As an adult, I've come to understand a bit more deeply why greed is such an attractive choice for each of us, for you and for me. Moments of poverty, housing insecurity, helplessness, and uncertainty as an adult have left me with a sense of self-preservation, a desire to hold on to my independence more firmly, sometimes at the cost of love. I'm not sure this is a better path, this shoring up of fences. Instead, perhaps the deeper and more difficult answer is that we must become vulnerable to be faithful. That turning toward one another in love, to ask for help and support, to be more open about the struggles that we all have, is the better way, is the more creative answer. That beauty lies not in the perfection of a glossy and good-looking life, but in the vulnerability and the mess. That spark of beauty lies in the opening of our hearts, like flowers unfurling. Sean Parker Dennison, whose words on that messy and dangerous gift of love were our centering reading, also writes of faith, hope, and love, saying what each of us truly need in the world is this: faith in yourself and trust in others. We know it can be terrifying to be vulnerable, but only when you share your softest side will we be able to break through. Next, hope. Hope is not an empty fairy tale. It is the true story of all the times human beings like you found a way to create the future, though you didn't know how. And of course, love. Love that demands you cherish all people, not just yourself and safety. This is our Unitarian Universalist faith. For as Unitarian Universalists, we come from a long heretical lineage of people who tore down hierarchies to lift up a sacred spark in every person. Our Unitarian Congregationalist ancestors were well represented among people who agitated for revolution in 1776 against the British. Yes, somewhat for trade reasons or self-interest, but also because they had seen alternative governance structures in the Native American tribes, the Iroquois nation in particular. They drew parallels between those systems of governance and the French philosophers who were speaking of the individual nobility of each person, the sacredness of the human mind and the human heart. They drew new connections and let the creative spark come forth in conversation. They believed in a world that did not yet exist and then fought for it until it did. That spark that created a prophetic resistance and a political revolution. It's that same spark that is the basis of faith, believing in something that does not yet exist or cannot be seen beyond the bounds of your imagination, but to hope for it, to love that brand new baby idea with a love powerful enough that you are willing to do what it takes to make it real. William Ellery Channing said that faith is love taking the form of aspiration. Cornel West, more recently, said justice is what love looks like in public. Together, these statements become the reason that Unitarian Universalists today find our faith grounding often when we side with love. For Unitarian Universalists are not. We have never been the faith of believe whatever you want, despite what some people might say. Instead, we're a people of faith finding our creative spark in that place where love and hope meet in search of a world resembling the pure justice of our most sacred imagination. Our history is a history of a what if religion. Our people, the people who asked, what if instead of waiting for heaven to happen after life, we made our world here and now into heaven? The Unitarians asked, what if the story of Jesus were not a story of substitutionary atonement, but a challenge to us all to become more loving all the days of our lives? What if we were not sinful and squalid, but perfectible in those moments when we look to love as our guide? The Universalists asked, what if we let people know that they are loved? What if we assure them they don't have to fight over the scraps of a finite salvation, but gave freely the gift of assurance that every single one of us are already enough, already lovable, just as you are, just because you are? What if, we asked, what if we did this? What if we shared this faith? What if we lived our lives as if these things were true? What might the world become? Our 7 principles today are covenant with one another. They're not belief statements, they are aspirations. They are where our love and our hope meet, and they propel us forward in faith that we might be able to live as if these things are true until they become reality. This is the faith whose legacy we continue today. When we ask ourselves, can we be bold, welcoming people who love people of the same gender? Can we love people whose gender doesn't fit into the 2 boxes of the binary? People who love more than one person? People whose family structures look different from what we were taught? And we are the people who believe in love, who believe in a world big enough to hold many kinds of families. When we are asked if we can offer welcome to immigrants, this comes forth. Even can we offer welcome to the ones who don't look like us, to the immigrants who don't speak our language, even perhaps to the ones who didn't follow the law or don't have the right paperwork or didn't ask permission before crossing the border. Yes, we say, our faith calls us to honor the humanity in each person, to love them, because these people are also beloved by all creation. We love them because in their humanity, we see our own, and we know that our own morality rests in what we offer in love. Our faith tells us that cages for people have no place in a loving world, and that we hold enough creativity, enough possibility to find a different way to make space for one another. We are asked in every moment of our lives to make choices, to ask ourselves whether we will accept what is because it is, or whether we will become more creative and make what is not yet. This is what we learned in 200 years since William Ellery Channing wrote that sermon, sparking the development of a new Unitarian Christianity. We are still becoming the world, the people that we hope to be. We know that our faith rests in love. And as Parker Palmer said, this love is not a soft and sentimental virtue, not a fuzzy feeling of romance. The love of which spiritual tradition speaks is a tough love. It's the connecting tissue of reality. The act of knowing is an act of love. The act of entertaining and embracing the reality of the other and allowing the other to enter and embrace our own. So I ask of you, people of faith, where is your love? Where is your hope? Where are we finding creativity, connection, that aspiration for a better, more vibrant life that looks more like we imagine heaven to be? Whether you believe in God, whether you believe in the capacity of humankind, of evolution, we all believe in the miracle of creation. And we all believe that we have a part in creating, in becoming the shapers of those small miracles, which are love reaching out. So let us today find in one another and in ourselves the courage to create one more miracle, one more piece of beauty, if only by being ourselves, open, vulnerable, willing to be honest with one another. Blessed be.
Materializing by Jean M. Olson. In what form did the Spirit appear to you today? The blossom of a flower? The cup of a child's hand? The silent twinkling stars? An old woman smiling at a bus stop? A lover's gentle hug? A presence so close to your soul you could almost touch it? Words of truth formed unbidden in your mind? The holy disguised in so many ways. May your senses open wide in recognition.
And now, as we extinguish our chalice flame, may we speak these words together.
We extinguish our child's flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Blessed be.
Our closing hymn is number 6, Just as Long as I Have Breath.
Just as long as I have breath, I must answer yes to life. Though with pain I'm in my way, still with hope I meet each day. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to life. Just as long as vision lasts, I must answer yes to truth. In my dream and in my dark, always that elusive spark. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to truth. Just as long as my heart beats, I must answer yes to love. Disappointment pierced me through, still I kept on loving you. If they ask what I did best, tell them I said yes to love.
As you go forth from this place, may you remember, just as it was in kindergarten, so too is it in our adult lives, that you must be willing to make a blessed mess. Creativity starts from imperfection. For whenever we are doing or becoming something we haven't tried before, it will be messy. And that is okay. For you are beloved. You are enough. You are always held in community, in all your messy imperfection. That is exactly how we love you best. Blessed be. If you would like to stay for coffee hour, you can hang out here. If you are joining us from one of the other congregations, they may be expecting you at their coffee hour, in which case, thank you for joining.